One of the questions I get asked all the time that I've never answered is, Charlie, you keep saying that the most important thing for a buyer is choosing a mortgage broker they can trust. But how do you know if you can trust your mortgage broker or not? Or how do you go about finding a broker you can trust? Or how do you choose a broker you can trust? And the reason I haven't done a video on this yet is because there's no easy answer to this question, but it is important enough to try and answer correctly. So in this video, that's what I'm going to try and do. Forgive me for driving. I'm just up against the clock and I desperately want to get this video out because it is so important. And for those of you who don't make it to the end of this video, the reason that it is so crucial that you choose a mortgage broker that you know you can trust to give you the best advice for your circumstances is because the difference between finding that broker or not finding that broker is quite literally life-changing. Life-changing. There are people now trapped in called mortgage prisoners. There are people trapped in negative equity. There are people trapped in a mortgage they can't settle early because the early repayment penalty is too much. There are people trapped in a long-term fixed rate, but they've now got a divorce and they can't sell the house because the early repayment clause is too much. There are people trapped paying higher rates than they need to be. There are people trapped unable to move. And all of these are situations that could have been avoided if the quality of the advice they'd got from their mortgage broker to begin with, if they even got advice from a mortgage broker to begin with, the quality of advice they got was bad. And let me give you a really simple example. Here we are, early 2024, and there are people coming to the end of a 2-year fix, wishing they'd fixed for 5 or 10 years. There are people coming to the end of a 5-year fix in 2024, wishing that back in 2019 they'd fixed for 10 years. And some of those people who could have fixed for longer 2 or 5 years ago but didn't will be because they chose to ignore the advice that their good broker gave them. And it was super simple advice because it was, interest rates can't get any lower than this, so there's never been a better time to fix for a longer period. The interest rates were literally as low as they could possibly be, especially during the pandemic. So why would anyone have only fixed for 2 years then? Either because they thought that's the cheapest and we'll worry about what happens in 2 years' time, or because their broker went, yeah, 2-year fix, go for a 2-year fix and let's talk again in 2 years' time because it's going to be fine. Now there are licensed and honest brokers who may have given that advice, that very bad advice, in 2021 or 2022. And herein lies the real challenge and real problem. Nobody knowingly chooses a mortgage broker that they know isn't trustworthy, right? So all these people who chose brokers and then got bad advice operated on the assumption that they could trust that broker. And not just that they could trust the broker's honesty, but also they could trust the broker's competence. And this is where mistakes start to get made by buyers, because one of the most typical questions I hear buyers asking mortgage brokers is, what's going to happen to interest rates? And brokers don't know that any more than anyone else knows that. there are occasionally exceptions, like when inflation is spiking, all brokers should be saying interest rates are going to go up. They're going to go up because they have to, they can't not. But mortgage brokers are trained in understanding the laws and regulations around mortgage products and the various terms and conditions of mortgage products and how they suit buyers in different situations. What mortgage brokers are not trained to do is to make predictions on interest rates. So most people don't even understand why you go to a mortgage broker. And most people think you do it to get the cheapest mortgage payment, which is patently and obviously wrong and foolish. If you think that a broker's job is to find you the cheapest deal, don't use a broker. Just go and use a comparison site and understand that you will be ignoring the long list of situational questions that a good broker will ask you about your personal circumstances that will affect the choice of mortgage product. Okay? It is literally, and I use this word in its literal meaning, not to be offensive, it is pure ignorance when a borrower thinks that they just need to find the cheapest mortgage. That is literally the definition of ignorance when it comes to mortgages, because and they will all or mostly end up in traps they didn't know existed because they didn't talk to a good broker and get good advice. You are literally the most foolish buyer there is if you think, well, I don't want to go to a broker because I might have to pay a broker's fee, and that's just a waste of money because I can just go to a website, a mortgage comparison website online, and then just get a quote from there. Because it's just like buying a flight, isn't it? Your choice of mortgage product can be life-changingly bad and life-changingly good, and only independent whole-of-market brokers that are A, knowledgeable and professional, and B, trustworthy with integrity are the ones who are going to help you find not necessarily the cheapest product, but the product that most suits your circumstances. And what do I mean by circumstances? I mean, are you single or are you married? If you're married, do you expect your marriage to survive, or do you expect your marriage to not survive in the next 5 to 10 years? Because more than 50% of marriages don't survive. So it's a reasonable question to consider when making a lifelong joint commitment. Are you expecting to start a family or not? Do you have kids that are going to be leaving home at some point in the future? Are you expecting to inherit money at some point in the next 5 to 10 years or not? Are you expecting wealth to come from somewhere else or not? Is your job stable or not very stable? Do you have other debts or not? I mean, the list of uniquely personal questions to you goes on and on and on and on. And only a human being who understands the context of all of those questions when it comes to buying a house and borrowing money and taking out a long-term mortgage is going to be in a position to actually give you good advice. Now we have the problem, which is, okay, what if the mortgage broker I choose, who's a nice person, has secret financial pressures of their own that are going to influence the choice of product that they're going to recommend you? Because, hey, we've all got to make a living. We've all got to pay the bills. Where do you and how do you know that the person that you're talking to is not going to put their commission earning needs above your long-term interests as a buyer? And there are so many factors that can affect the outcome of that question. For example, the situation when you've got a trusted broker is, okay, we've got a choice of several different products. They've all got roughly the same repayment, but they have different early repayment clauses or different durations or different this or different that. And which is the best one for your circumstances. There is no way of being sure when you pick a broker that they aren't going to sell you a product that suits them more than it suits you. How do you trust someone's integrity? Because lots of that broker's customers may have bought mortgage products through that broker, and they won't know for 5 or 10 years that actually they got bad advice. So it's extremely difficult. And most mortgage brokers are competing with each other to get your business, and will say what you want to hear, because that's just human. So the very frustrating answer to the question is, how do you go about finding a broker that you know you can trust? Is there's no guaranteed way. And as silly as it sounds, the best piece of advice I ever got, and it's a piece of advice I use to this day, is before you're about to go into business with somebody, and when you're picking a mortgage broker, you kind of are, you're going into a sort of business relationship with them, ask yourself, would I leave my kids with this person? I didn't even have kids when that advice came to me. I thought, oh my God, that's a brilliant idea. A brilliant way of thinking. Like, no matter how professional and cool and how likable and everything else, would I leave my kids with them? Would I really, really trust them to not put their own interests above mine? They can't put your interests above theirs either. That's not realistic, and people who do that end up going out of business. It's a balancing act. It's about finding people that you go into a transactional relationship with, who are going to treat you as an equal human being, who are going to put your needs for a good long-term financial outcome on the same level as their needs to make a living. Right? That's a balanced relationship. And let me finish with this. Some people go, oh yeah, well, you know, some mortgage brokers charge, and they charge 200 or 300 or 400 or 500, 600 pounds, whatever their charges might be, and I've got to pay that up front. The tens of thousands of pounds that a really good broker that gives you really good advice will save you makes the fee they want to charge negligible. Right? If you've got a deposit to buy a house, you can afford a mortgage broker, provided you find one that you can really trust. There's no question. And it's money well spent. It'll be life-changingly good advice that could, I mean, the list goes on of reasons it could affect you. Retirement age, self-employed versus employed, planned future changes in your circumstances, all this stuff that you can talk to your broker about in confidence. You know, you won't even remember what their fee was, but you will either thank them or curse them down the line. So you need to make your choice of independent whole of market mortgage broker like your life depends on it, because it literally does. I can't tell you which ones you can trust and which ones you can't trust. But what I can tell you is the ones you can really trust are in the minority, and they're hard to find. So talk to people that you might know who've been using the same mortgage broker for decades. That's a good sign. Talk to people you know who've used a broker that they think is trustworthy, but don't assume it means that they are. Talk to people in the industry. If you know estate agents, or you know conveyancers, or you know builders, home builders, ask them if they know mortgage brokers. Now, most people go, oh yeah, I've got a mate who's a mortgage broker, use them. No, there's nothing wrong with that introduction method. And if the person making the referral is someone that you trust, then that's a positive start. But it doesn't mean that their mate can be trusted. You've got to talk to them. and you've got to talk to them not about which is the best mortgage product for me, but I'm really, really worried about choosing the wrong mortgage broker. How can you help me find the right mortgage broker? Maybe it's you, maybe it's not you. Please give me advice on how to choose the mortgage broker. That's the question I would ask a mortgage broker. I would say, if you weren't a mortgage broker and I was asking you, how do I choose one I can trust? What would you say? Ask them to explain what to look out for with bad mortgage brokers. Because a really good broker would do that. They would tell you how you can trust, what to watch out for, what are the warning signs. Now, I'll give you a couple of warning signs that I think are signs that they're not someone with your best interests at heart. Number one, if you call a mortgage broker and say, hi, I want to talk to you about getting a mortgage in principle lined up before I go out viewing properties, and they say, no, it's too early to do that, come back to me when you found someone you want to offer on. If you are serious about viewing to buy a home now, that is a signal to me that that's the wrong mortgage broker for you, because they don't understand the importance of what they do with respect to helping you avoid bad brokers that you get pushed towards by estate agents. Those brokers don't understand that you want to be in control of your house buying process, and therefore you don't want to be pushed at a broker. You want to make your own choice of broker without being under pressure, right? So I would immediately not use a broker that said, give me a call back when you found somewhere, right? They're just looking for the short-term deal. They're not looking after your best long-term interests, and that's the first giveaway, right? A good broker will be happy to talk to you even if it's months in advance. But also, if they want, some of those brokers won't charge you a fee until they get you a mortgage offer. Some of them will charge you up front if you want to have their time and their advice. And only you can decide if you're comfortable with that. The guys that I've picked, right? So what I always say is, go out and find a mortgage broker you trust looking yourself. If you can't find one, or if you're not sure, or if you don't have the time to scour, I've got 2 mortgage brokers that I've handpicked and that I've worked with now coming up for 2 years that I recommend, precisely because they are people who don't put themselves above the needs of their clients. They do have integrity, they can be trusted, their advice is solid. So if you can't find your own, but I would always say, please go and try and find one through your own channels that you're sure you can trust. But if that doesn't work, or you haven't got time, I have got guys. And I will put in the link below the video the link to the form on my website where you can put your details in if you want to talk to them. They're there as a backup, all right? So guys, I'm sorry, I don't know how helpful this is. It's not a quick answer, but I hope it helps. But what I can tell you is, if you want to talk to my guys, there's no obligation to talk to them. It's a good place to start if you don't know where else to start. My website's mhwc.co.uk/mortgage to talk to those guys, or look at the link below. I hope that was helpful. I know it was a long ramble. Best of luck. Let me know if you've got any questions in the comments below on that topic. And if you're someone that has used my brokers and you haven't had a good experience, I'd love to know about it, because so far I've had nothing but good feedback in terms of the end result. All right. Best of luck, guys. See you on the next video. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.